Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this first day of week 2 at the COP at the Cryosphere Pavilion. Also, for those of you who are watching online, things have really heated up, no pun intended, as the high-level segments begin. Later on today at 1 p.m. we have an Arctic Council event that will be opened by the Icelandic Minister of Environment. So please come back for that. But now we're going to the other pole for a presentation from Humberto González talking about the research moving forward by the Ideal Center on the Southern Ocean and surrounding Antarctic regional seas. So Humberto, please.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank the PAM and all the institutions and countries that make possible this pavilion. Sure, small, but warm. And secondly, I am a little bit in shock because after heard the young people in the press conference, especially because my son is usually at the forefront as well. And every day I'm a little bit scared that they came home with and damage. Okay, I would just start with the name of the center we have is the Dynamics of High Latitude Marine Ecosystem. We are located in the central southern part of the country, especially in Punta Arenas. In this occasion, I will talk about two main topics. The first one is the effort we have done already and we continue doing in terms of research to cope with this exacerbated climate change. And secondly, what we had already done and what we will continue doing in terms of mitigation, adaptation, and governance. This means how we can catch more and collect more information to feed the models. Secondly, how we can protect some our natural carbon sequestration process like a biological carbon pump. How we can do action for protect glaciers and how we can do action for educate the society at large. First of all, this is our center. We have 3 main research topics dealing with the connectivity, global change, and human dimension of the science. We have 5 research programs, and we have many challenges in front of us. And we have to be good in research, in transfer our knowledge. We have to be good in the outreach activities and also in human capital formation, but the main challenge is how we can make a bridge between social and natural science. Nowadays, become more and more, necessary to incorporate the social part in the research, even in the cryosphere. In the southern part of the country, and we'll go and tackle all of these different issues during my presentation, but nowadays become more and more important in the social aspect. We have heard the young people just a few minutes ago, and they are fighting not for themselves, they are fighting for the rest of the people and for the planet. So this is our study area. If you are looking for some very complicated area, no doubt, believe me, this is a more complex area all over the world. So we are studying the tips of the South America and also the Antarctic Peninsula. We have in between the ACC, the Antarctic Circumpolar Current, and it's supposed to be a really efficient barrier for the exchange of plankton and bentos of course, not for mammals and birds, but the idea is we are studying the potential physiological constraint and adaptation capabilities of the different species and groups in the possibility that they can jump from one side to the other because of the global change. So we mimic in laboratory the condition that according to different APCC scenarios and see the capabilities of the different species to move from one side to the other in the near future. Another thing is to collect information using moorings. So this means a time series station because we needed to feed and to improve our climate models, for example, oceanographic models. And so we have done some work in that direction. This is one example. This is in Yendegaya Bay, close to the Beagle Channel. So we collect information during already 1.5 years, and we expect to have it in the near future, hopefully many, many years, decade, if it is possible, for cope with this requirement for the models. And these are two examples of our beautiful landscape in the Patagonia. In the upper part, you can see one fjord, which is the glacier already retreats 12 kilometers from the border. So there is a glacier, a river, and then the fjord. In the bottom part, the bottom panel shows another fjord which is 50 kilometers apart and where the glacier comes directly to the water. So this is marine terminated glacier. So we have then, and we treat it like a natural laboratory, this one. So what we think is that in the upper part, is the climate change has acted more quickly than in the lower fjord, so we can study both fjords at the same time and see what happened in terms of input of fresh water, nutrients, sediment, and so on. And in addition, we are trying to collect information of one of these key species. So there's many of them. That the model that characterizes this group is the waste trophic model. So they can collect all the small particles, they can filtrate, and then they are the main food for the upper trophic layer. So they are extremely important because of that, but also important because they act as a link between the upper and the lower part of the ocean, of the water column. And so they can sequester and export carbon in terms of fecal pellet, for example. And I will show you one of these. You can see here. This is a sample that we collected with sediment traps in the Antarctic Peninsula. It's only fecal pellet, fecal strings from krill. So krill are really important, not because they are key species in the Antarctica. It's because they run the biological carbon pump. So they are exporting a lot of carbon to the deep sea in terms of fecal pellet. That's we said we have to protect the key species that are doing the work. What work? To export carbon to the deep sea. In addition, there are some people that are working in models. So you see that the life cycle of the krill. At the bottom shows different scenarios, the warming of the ocean, the southern oceans, in the surface and in the bottom part. If you warm the water, you lose more and more ice sheet. So if we are convinced, of course, cold water and extended ice coverage, they are favorable condition for krill. If we lose this part, we will lose also krill. So the model said that here from the end of the century, we will lose from 70 to 80% of all the suitable environment for krill. This is really bad. So this is what the model said. In another issue that I want to tackle here is the glaciers. Why they are important? Because they provide a lot of services. It's not just beauty it's just because they provide water supply not only for the industry but also for the human consumption, mining activities, agriculture, forestry, energy, recreation, everything. There's a lot of different services that they can provide the glaciers. This is an example. I will not go in detail about that, but believe me, glacier means a lot of changes in terms of biological, physical, and chemical condition for the rest of the environment and for the rest of the individuals in the water column. This is another example that they provide also nutrient, but in particular they provide iron. And iron is really important because this is a limiting factor for production. In this, this is the work of Mark Hopgood, the geomark in Germany. He's from UK, and he measured the iron content in this iceberg that detached from glaciers. So they collected and measured iron very carefully. It's not easy. He do this job from the northern to the southern part, northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere. There are 6 orders of magnitude difference in the concentration of iron. But this is really important. So we have to collect. Iron is really important because it can maintain the productivity of the system, especially in high nutrient, low chlorophyll systems. So this is another services that we have to include in glaciers as well. This is the glaciers are under risk, and this is the models, many models that were made by one of the scientists from Iceland, Godfina Adalgeotir. It's really difficult to pronounce the name of the Scandinavians, but especially from the Iceland. But she did this work. So there is different model applied, 3 different scenarios of warming in global change. So I mark it in this line what will happen in the Los Andes in South America. If we applied one of the most where we have more commitment to protect the environment, which is 1.5 degrees as a maximum increase after the industrial period, we will lost probably in terms of mass loss in percentage 20% of all the glaciers in Los Andes. If we are even really ambitious and we go for 1.5. If we are not so ambitious, we go for 2 degrees, we will lose around 30%. And if we are doing nothing, and at the end of the century we can increase the temperature up to 4 degrees, we will lose closely 50% of all the glaciers in Los Andes. So the situation is really difficult for us. So how bad is the actual situation? I took the last issue of Nature, the journal Nature. This was the issue that was launched in the 5th of December, just 4 days ago. In SEM said, since the 60s, we have lost more than 9,000 gigatons of ice worldwide, so in all the planet, which is equivalent to, in piece of ice, the same surface of Spain and 20-meter height. Can you imagine? So it's a really huge amount of ice that we have already lost from the beginning, from the 60s. And The rate that we are losing this ice is unprecedented. Unprecedented. So yeah, we are in danger, and we can lose most of the ice and glacier we have at the end of the century. And he said probably by 2300 we will be not more glacier in this planet. So this is really a big problem. In the problem associated with this, of course, there's a lot of geohazard and problems, and in global sea level will rise, and will be a lot of migration from one side or the other because of this problem. But we are also facing the same problem now, right now in Chile, not because of the sea ice rise. It's because of we are losing all our glaciers in the central northern part of the country. So the people that have cattle or sheep need water. There's no water, so they have to move from the center to the southern part of the country. So migration started right now in our country, and not because of the sea level rise. It's because there's no water now in the northern part. How to cope with this exacerbated climate change? Some projection, action, ambitions we have to have. Well, first of all, we need to collect information necessary to feed the models and to improve the models, the climate model, oceanographic model. Secondly, we have to protect the natural biological carbon pump. Means there is some key species. So krill is one of them, whales is another of them that we have to protect anyway. We have to recall that geoengineering is already and they're under a moratorium in the planet. So sometime if we apply geoengineering, we said that the remedy could be worse than the illness itself. So we have to protect that we have naturally now, which is the biological carbon pump. This is our suggestion at least. And to educate the society in climate change issues from primary school student to private public sector up to governmental sectors, and to protect the glacier by law. So they are under really high risk, and so this figure shows, along all the country that we have very few of them in the northern central part. There are very few glaciers. In the southern part, we have almost 80% of all the glaciers from South America, and 50% of all the Chilean Los Andes range is in the southern part. But the problem of the water is more exacerbated in the central northern part. So it's very, very strong pressure now to use it. What we are doing? Well, the role of the academy in public education, from a student to governmental sector. First, we launched these reports, which is scientific evidence and climate change in Chile and Austral for decision makers. We hope that they can help the people who have to take decisions. And secondly, we are finished to produce one of these issues, one book, which we call it Cryosphere and Climate Change, 50 Questions and Answers. So it's dedicated also for students and for the people from the street, let's say, with what means cryosphere, why the cryosphere is important, what means permafrost. So all of these terms, they are put it in this book. So the evidence is here. We have the IPCC 2019 report, and the time for action, as said, is now. So thank you very much.
Any questions? No? Then is José Luis next? Yeah? Okay, she has a question. Sorry. Yeah.
I have a quick question about the glaciers of Patagonia. I think it's 2 glaciers are kind of okay, not retreating as fast as all the others. But what is affecting the glaciers of Patagonia? Is it the temperatures that are increasing, or is it changes in precipitation?
Both of them, but also because there is some black carbon in the position of them, so the capacity of the glacier to get back the radiation to the atmosphere is reduced because of that. But there's less precipitation and also warming. So every year is the glacier go back and forth, but now the retreat is more important than the advance of the glacier. So we are losing mass of the glacier in almost all the Los Andes range, except, as you say, 1 or 2 glaciers like a Pio 11, which is increasing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Ocean under threat. Thank you.
¿Cómo? Siguiente. Thank you very much.
Any of you, si necesitas señalar algo,
Okay. No,
aquí con el puntero.
pasándola nomás estoy bien.
Eso,
Okay.
perfecto.
Thank you very much. This presentation is going to be very briefly. Most of the information was given by Humberto González. I am an oceanographer working at the Ideal Center, and most of we have been working during the last 4 years in the Antarctica and also in the Patagonia fjords in the subantarctic region. So although we have some few evidence, most of the information is still a little in Patagonia, and if you can see the prediction from the modeling, usually there is a few data from the Pacific Ocean and some information, very key information are missing over there for the future. So, and during the last 20-30 years in our country, most of the research has been focused in the astronomy, but during the last 5 or a few years ago, we are doing some specific work in Patagonia and Antarctica regarding from the ocean. And again, from we don't have so much information from this part of the world, and we needed to do some modeling in the future. What we know that our world, as you know, is water. And what we have there, we have microalgae, phytoplankton, for example, small organisms that doing one of the main processes in the ocean, that is photosynthesis. And right now, around 25-30% of the CO2, anthropogenic CO2, is taken by these small microscopic organisms like phytoplankton, and they are doing a good job in the ocean. As I said, it's about 25-30% of the extra CO2 in the air. We also have some predators like krill, as Humberto said before. Krill is one of the key players, doing a good job from taking this carbon and transforming and then sinking to the deep ocean. And also we have fishes, and also important in Antarctica, in cold waters of Patagonia, we have whales, and they are key place right now recycling the iron and also recycling nutrients for phytoplankton. So basically we have a very simple food chain, phytoplankton, krill and whales, that we need to take care. We need to again, as Humberto said, there are key players in cold waters. But we have to take care about their habitat. We need more marine protected areas as a kind of climatic refugees for the future, and we need to keep this system doing several functions, and as well as maintaining the structure of the food web and food chain, to do some kind of mitigation, CO2 mitigation from our anthropogenic CO2. There is some numbers there. As I said, 20% of the CO2 emission is absorbed already for the ocean, and we are trying to do our best to estimate what is the proportion, what is the role of the Patagonian Sea in this CO2 absorption into the ocean. We still don't know. We have few data from some fjords and channels from Patagonia, but still we're just starting doing some work on this, doing some calculation of the CO2 fluxes through the ocean. Our center is studying the connection between the Magallanes, the southern tip of South America, and the southernmost tip of South America, and also related with the Antarctic Peninsula. And we are seeing that some of the organisms, through several experiments, can tolerate some temperature rising, but others not. They cannot survive the rising of temperature. You can see here that in Antarctica, not all the continent is responding in the same way because of the climate change. One of the part of the Antarctica, mainly the Antarctic Peninsula, the temperature is rising most compared to the other part of the Antarctica. What is the consequence of the rise of the temperature into the continental ice shelf? Well, we have some example like Larsen Sea, that they are separating from the continent and derivating through the Southern Ocean. And but also they are melting a few tons of water into the sea. So there is some process like freshening that are impacting into the oceanic part of Antarctica, but also can enter into the coastal part of the coastal part of Antarctica. So our center is working in doing some experiment, also doing some first monitoring on how the salinity of the surface ocean are decreasing, but also doing some experiment with the organisms, how the organisms respond to this freshening, to the decrease of salinity? Can they tolerate the low salinity in the near future? So these are kind of questions that we are tackling in the next 5 years. This is some numbers. 10% of the Patagonia glacier are retreating, and this can also doing some strong impact into the fjord, into the channel, lowering the salinity in the future. And some of the organisms can tolerate this decreasing in salinity, but others not. One of the another key processes affecting the ocean by the climate change is the acidification. There is some imbalance between the CO2 absorption and the use of the calcium carbonate by the organisms. And we have some key organisms that could be affected by this acidification, mainly in fjords. We have the corals over there, and probably could be affected by the acidification processes. That acidification process is very tight with the increasing of freshwater volume to the ocean, because it's different chemical. They have different chemical properties compared to the ocean waters. Another key problem is that how this all climate change effects can affect society. And in the southernmost region in our country, Magallanes, we have artisanal fisheries from the king crab, and we are doing some experiment with this king crab, focusing in the early stage of this king crab, because they are pelagic. This species is bentonic, but the larvae stage are at the surface, and again, surface is right now changing a lot with the freshening, temperature, etc. Another consequences of this climate change regarding with the glacier is that tourist activity, because of the glacier are retreating, and they are could be affecting a little bit in the future for tourism. You can see there an example of the glacier, very famous glacier, and actually how much this most of the fjord is exposed to the land. And finally, most of the melting of the glacier and the ice shed from Antarctica could probably get into the near city. And here is the picture of Punta Arenas, that is near city of the Antarctic Peninsula, and there is a kind of modeling of the prediction of the rise of the seawater into Punta Arenas in about 1 meter. It's so what we can do from our point of view, we as a society, we have to take care about we have to take some actions with respect to the climate change right now, but also from the scientific point of view, we have to to do more research. We need more research in this part of the world, especially in the Southern Ocean and also in the Patagonia. Thank you.
Any questions or?
Thank you so much for your presentation, which was very interesting. In one of the slides, you said that only 10% of the glaciers of Patagonia are retreating currently. What is the source for this number? Thank you.
Yeah, I think there is some mistake with this number, and I couldn't change because it's more than 50%. Yes. So some of the fjords in the are responding in different ways. Most of them are retreating. Few of them are increasing, and another one are stable. Yeah, but you're right. It's more than 10%.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No, I think that's it. Thank you very much. So this is all for this side event? Okay, perfect. So we have the next, I'll go here, otherwise Rodrigo will complain. So don't leave just yet, because we have the next side event that will start at 1 p.m. The side event is organized by the Arctic Council with AMAP and the ICCI, and it is called All Aboard Tackling Ocean Acidification. And I've heard that there might be something to eat as well for this side event, so don't miss it at 1 p.m. Thank you.